Yeah, I like to have it.
Good evening. We're going to call our meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. This is the Monroe Township Board of Education monthly meeting. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Except for
Ms. Allen, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Alvarez? Ms. Belko?
Here.
Ms. Bora?
Here.
Ms. DePayne?
Here.
Ms. Fabiano?
Here.
Mr. Gorham?
Here.
Ms. Ratner?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Ms. Gerby?
Here.
Mr. Tufano?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published and electronic notice provided by having the date, time, and place thereof posted September 15th, 2023 and February 16th, 2024 at all schools, on the district website, Home News Tribune, Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is our closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21 to discuss the following subjects: harassment, intimidation, or bullying, matters protected by attorney-client privilege, confidential personnel matters. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, we'll be in closed session. Thank you. Okay, good evening. We are back in our public session of the meeting. The next item on the agenda is our approval of minutes. First one on the agenda is the Public Board of Education meeting minutes from January 17th, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Give a second. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the next one is the closed session meeting, January 17th, 2024. Can I get a motion to
Motion.
approve?
Second.
Are there any questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the next one on the agenda is a special Public Board of Education meeting, February 5th, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
All right, are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. And the next item on our agenda is our student board members report. Good evening, ladies. We have both of our representatives here this evening. I'm not sure who would like to go first.
Go first. We'll start off with Mill Lake. On January 24th and January 25th, the third grade students engaged in a Lenape interpreter program, recognizing the significant contributions of Native Americans to our state. Starting February 1st, Mill Lake School launched the fabulous February Food Bank Frenzy, showing support for the Monroe Township Food Pantry. Throughout the month, Mill Lake has collected non-perishable foods and personal care items. Mill Lakers are encouraged to wear purple and jeans on Mondays in February to showcase their solidarity. Thank you to all the PTO volunteers for supporting and working the Mill Lake's Winter Scholastic Book Fair, which ran from February 6th to the 8th. On February 27th, Mill Lake will again participate in their 2nd and 7th athletes visit. Big shout out to Mrs. McLeod, Mr. Snyder, and Mr. B, and all the other student athletes. As Read Across America approaches, Mill Lake is gearing up for an enlightening opportunity to learn about their community. On Monday, March 4th, they will host various readers from their community holding service positions. A heartfelt thank you in advance for joining them on this special day. To support Read Across America, staff are participating in a door decorating celebration. On March 8th, Mill Lake will have a culminating dance party for the school. Conferences are Tuesday, the 20th of February for preschool and kindergarten, Wednesday and Thursday, the 21st and 22nd, and Thursday, the 22nd. The week of February 26th is Dental Awareness Week at Mill Lake School, And Mill Lake has started to apply for several grants and are fundraising to improve their SPED preschool and kindergarten playground. March 1st is Mill Lake's Kids Heart Challenge, and they've already raised over $7,000 and are still going strong. Mill Lake is looking forward to their annual Mill Lake's Evening of Reading on March 14th.
All right, so moving on to Woodland. So for Woodland, Mrs. Newcomb, the school counselor, arranged to have Prismatic Magic visit the school for an anti-bullying assembly for the 4th and 5th grade students. Prismatic uses current music, humor, and laser lights to reinforce positive behaviors. Student Council and Character Crew arranged several different school spirit events, such as Mental Awareness Day, Super Bowl Food Drive, and Be Kind Week, to name a few. Student and staff celebrated the 100th day of school on Monday, February 19th, and a President's Day trivia assembly facilitated by Mr. Reinhold, their trivia game show host. All classrooms in Woodland are participating in the Scripps Spelling Bee this month. The PTO also arranged their annual Scholastic Book Fair for students, where children were given the opportunity to shop for their favorite books. The school continues to celebrate their Lego logs for their school theme, Lego of Limitations and Build. To celebrate their January collection, they had a school dance party together in the gymnasium during their extension period. For February, Woodland plans to have a classroom-level Kahoot challenge that will identify students to represent each homeroom for a school-wide Kahoot in March. They are continuing to build the foundation for success in middle school and beyond at wonderful Woodland Elementary School.
Moving on to Barclay Brook Elementary School. Barclay Brook celebrated their 100th day of school with a school-wide spirit week, culminating with the 100th day of school when students were invited to dress as if they were 100 years old or wear a themed shirt. Barclay Brook's SEL community organized a Valentine's Day card drive for the residents at their local assisted living facilities with the hope that this small act of kindness will spread love, support, and compassion to many members of their community. Students colored pictures and wrote heartfelt notes to the residents, and they collected hundreds of Valentine's cards and were able to distribute them to 4 assisted living facilities in their community. Barclay Brook students celebrated Valentine's Day by creating a love bug museum in their gymnasium. During the first 2 weeks of February, each class was tasked with the STEAM challenge of working with a partner to create a 3D love bug using a set of given materials. Students worked in pairs or small groups to plan, create, problem solve, and finalize their love bugs. Through each step of the process, the students also reflected on what color they were in for their school zones of regulation, corresponding with Barclay Brook's social emotional learning school goal. The project concluded with the Love Bug Museum, where all students' creations were on display for the entire school community to enjoy.
Moving on to Brookside. So at Brookside, all grades held their classroom spelling bees on January 25th. The school-wide spelling bee took place on February 12th. Brookside School celebrated Day 100 with a Spirit Week, which started on Monday, February 12th. All 4th grade students participated in a STEM day on Friday, February 16th. For Brookside, parent-teacher conferences will take place on February 21st and 22nd. And Brookside has an author's visit scheduled for February 27th, which the school is very excited for.
Next up, we have Oak Tree Elementary School. Oak Tree Elementary School's Hour of Code Night took place on February 8th for grade 3 students and their parents. Oak Tree raised over $13,000 for the American Heart Association during their Kids Heart Challenge Month. They celebrated with a school-wide freeze dance party on February 16th. On January 30th, the Zuzu African Acrobats Assembly took place. Thank you to their PTA for sponsoring. February is Dental Health Month, and they had guest dentists visit different classrooms. One Book, One School took place on February 9th. The book, The Recess Queen, was read to the entire school throughout the day. Follow-up activities were planned for the students as well. Unified event took place on February 20th, at which 3rd grade Unified Pals were brought together with students from the high school, as well as students from Mrs. Applegate's and Mrs. Rosenthal's classes. Oak Tree will also be celebrating a week of inclusion on February 26th to March 1st, and Read Across America activities are planned for the week of March 4th to 8th.
All right, so for the middle school, the week of February 5th was the MTMS Week of Optimism to honor their former student. The week had a different theme each day with a culminating activity on the last day. On February 7th, 100 MTMS students represented Monroe at a Broadway workshop, learning how to incorporate music and choreography. They followed this by attending a production of Back to the Future. Through the support of Penn Medicine and coordinated by the MTMS nurses, MTMS students received CPR training through their physical education classes. Next Wednesday, February 28th, the annual MTMS Art Show will be held from 5 to 6:30 p.m.
And last but not least, our very own Monroe Township High School. The high school musical Romeo and Juliet has been announced, and rehearsals are in full swing this month. Congratulations to the intermediate competition cheer team, which earned 2 bids to nationals. We also had a very successful Black History Month assembly where students enjoyed an interactive presentation and wonderful singers. Unified Basketball has also competed in their state championships on February 17th. And lastly, happy belated National Counselors Week to all of our wonderful high school MTHS counselors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the very detailed reports of what's going on in our schools. Thank you. The next item on our agenda are our committee reports. Is there any committee chair wishing to give a report? Mr. Tofano?
We had a presentation to introduce to us the SIP program, which is an energy savings improvement program. Dominic Tringali, who is the assistant to Mr. Tague, Dominic Tringali introduced 2 contractors to the committee, each making a presentation regarding the ESIP program. This program is designed to use energy expenditure savings to fund projects to upgrade a variety of infrastructure and facility components, HVAC, lighting, insulation, mechanical systems, etc. First to present was Joshua Smith, an associate, and his associate from ABM Corporation. They provided an outline of the program, their experience with executing the program, and working with clients, the potential areas where savings can be realized and touched, and how the program works. Second to present was Caroline Jackson and her team from Honeywell International. They discussed details of the program and items they think would be advantageous to us to address, including the magnitude of potential energy savings and some of the scope of what could be accomplished. They also discussed previous clients local to our district that showed very successful results. Some of those results are still ongoing. Additionally, they discussed peripheral benefits, such as engaging the STEM program at our district to involve students who may be interested in doing that type of work. So that's going to be taken back for the entire board to discuss, and Jerry Tague to decide which program would be best for us. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Tofano? No? Do you want to do your report? Sure. Ms. Fabiano?
On Monday, February 12th, the Legislative Action and Community Engagement Committee met. The first item we discussed was the letter writing campaign and possible petition. Mr. Moralda shared that the letter format had been updated to allow community members easier access to edit. We discussed the idea of a petition and how we could possibly reach a broader audience in other communities with similar needs to ours. We thought the idea of a petition regarding funding for full-day kindergarten would be a good topic since the state is already providing funding for preschool, and there are still districts like us that do not have full-day kindergarten programs. Ms. Ratner mentioned that a board member from another district shared a list of districts without full-day kindergarten at a prior NJSBA meeting and offered to send this to the administration to follow up. Mr. Moralda also provided an update on the district website. He explained that his team is reviewing the website to remove dead links and make it more user-friendly. Ms. Ratner mentioned that the calendar widget appears to have inaccurate information and not all schools are represented on the calendar. Mr. Moralda offered to review where the data for the calendar widget was being pulled from and look to see how it could be improved. Once again, there is still no update on the state budget hearings. We still have not been able to sign up to testify. I check every day, multiple times a day, hoping one time I'm going to click the refresh link and it's going to let us sign up, but it's not there yet. And lastly, Ms. Ratner shared various legislative updates from the legislative committee meeting from December. That's it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a comment.
Sure. Ms. Boer?
Thank you, Ms. Ratner, for sharing that list of schools that don't have kindergarten, and I was surprised or shocked because some of those districts are affluent, really good school districts, so it'll be nice if we can collaborate with them and find a way to approach this jointly, see what they're doing and probably try to work with them. And I can follow up with my personnel report.
Sure.
Or can I
Sorry,
just,
go ahead.
just to share with, because it's a very short list.
Yes,
um,
it is. That's a good idea.
So I just wanted to
Good
share with
idea.
the public. So the other districts that do not currently have full-day kindergarten in the state, out of approximately 600, are Morristown Township in Burlington, Haddonfield Borough in Camden, West Windsor Plains Borough in Mercer, Millstone Township and Upper Freehold Regional in Monmouth, Chatham in Morris, Bridgewater, Raritan, and Hillsborough in Somerset. I do believe they passed that very recently in November. So as of next year, they wouldn't be there. But then Cranford and Westfield in Union. So it does, what I liked about this, I mean, I don't like it, but what I appreciate is that these are districts that are sort of spread out throughout the state. So if we can collaborate with them, we're reaching out to multiple senators and multiple assembly people. And that way, hopefully, there's more than just our legislators fighting for us. It's throughout the state. So,
Can I ask her a question?
Yes, Mr. Tufano?
Do you know if those districts don't have kindergarten because the community voted it down, or is it a funding issue?
I mean, I can't say for sure. I know I looked into a couple of them, and I think for some of them it's similar to what we have, where they're in that area where they're not receiving the funding, so they're unable to provide it. I do know, I believe it's Westfield also, it has a spacing issue like we have, so it's not just the matter of providing the funds for full-day kindergarten, but where are you going to put them even if you have those funds. But other than that, I'm not really sure. I know Dr. Chanley had offered to reach out to those superintendents to see perhaps what the reason is, if it's that they don't want, I mean, I can't imagine any educational group necessarily not wanting it, but what their reasons are that they don't have it, to see if there's similar reasons that we can then advocate for. Because when I see other districts that are very similar in terms of the district factor groups and socioeconomic status that are getting money for preschool. And then I think about the fact that we now, we have that for our students who absolutely need it, in terms of what's required, but all those other students that don't necessarily even get full-day kindergarten, much less full-day preschool, including Jamesburg, which I love that they're getting that, but then you think about students that are at our Monroe High School, some who have had full-day school since they were 3, I mean, I guess not yet, but eventually, whereas some of our students aren't getting that until first grade. So it would be great to have that equality. But yeah, that's all I know for sure.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Gagliardi,
Yeah,
did you want to add a comment?
I can just add that
He is, Ms. Arminio.
the fourth Tuesday in January, Cranford, one of the districts you mentioned, did pass a referendum to provide for full-day kindergarten. So it's both a space issue and, as some of you may know, it's required by regulation that a kindergarten classroom has to have a bathroom. So they provided for tens of millions of dollars to do that. Now, the next step for them is to fund the staff for it, but it'll take a year or two before all the construction is done. But in terms of outreach to superintendents, there's one that's right at the beginning of establishing full day.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything else? Ms. Board, did you want to do your report?
Yes, really quick. It's a very short report. The Personnel Committee met on February 12th. We had a very short meeting. The public update is at the time of the meeting, there were 16 vacancies in the district, 4 due to transfer within the district, 5 due to resignation, 6, and of the 5, 4 are bus drivers and have been on the list so it's not new news. 6 are due to leave and 1 is due to retirement. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Boer? Are there any other committees to have a report? Yes, Ms.
I just
Buffalo?
want to put it on the minutes record that there was no curriculum or financial committee meeting due to the snow that we haven't had in years, but
Yes.
everything's on the agenda for tonight.
Okay. And that concludes our committee reports. The next item on the agenda is our public forum for agenda items only. Anybody wishing to address the board, please come to the podium, state your name and municipality, and you have 4 minutes.
Hi, Okay, so,
Can you state your name and
my
municipality,
name is Vanessa
please?
Forst, and I live in Monroe Township.
Thank you.
Okay, at first I was dismayed, thinking that the residents, and especially parents of Monroe, were apathetic to what is happening to our school system. Under Superintendent Chanley and
Ma'am,
certain members
ma'am,
of the
if-
Board of Ed.
Ma'am, is this on the agenda? Is this an agenda item?
This
This is our
probably does
public-
refer to
This is
some
our
of the-
public forum for
This is
agenda
a
items
public
only.
forum.
For our agenda items only. If you have a question or a comment on something on the agenda, this is the public forum for that. Otherwise, you would have to wait till the second public forum.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peter Piro, Monroe Township. I just have a couple questions. I know we did away with the coordinators at the high school, but we still have team leaders for the middle school. We didn't do away with them?
Do you have other questions? If you could state all of your questions,
Okay.
and then we'll answer them.
And then I wanted to know what a Title I library maker space family night was. And I wanted to know what a school counselor ASCA career specialist course is. I wanted to know also, it looks like we're hiring a music teacher for the Woodland School, and we're starting the gentleman at $94,000 a year. And then my last question is, why are we hiring the Lennox Law Firm defense counsel? I would like to know what that's for. That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? Is that it? Thank you.
No answers?
No. Thank you.
You're not going to explain to me what a Title I library maker, nobody can tell me what that is because I had never heard of it. No? Okay. I love. Yeah, question. Anybody?
Is there anybody else wishing to speak?
What's the point?
I'm kind of reluctant, I guess, to ask a question. Is this one of the agenda items, the resolution authorizing the business administrator for the supervision of the repairs at Applegarth?
Yes.
Well, my question, and I hope you do answer it, Mrs. Gerby, is that I know that the...
Can we have your name and municipality,
I'm sorry.
please?
It's Patricia Swaljay, and I live in Monroe, 586A Madison Drive in the Clearbrook section. I'm a senior, and my tax dollars are going to fund the school board. So I want to ask about putting the business administrator, that's Mrs. Allen, correct?
Yes.
In charge of this big project. Evidently, that type of supervision for such a project would be like a project manager. I know that the business administrator probably has a full question is, who's going to be doing the supervision of the project? Because it's basically that $11 million in grant funding for all of this work that's being done. Am I correct with that figure?
Yes, and it would be the facilities director that would be overseeing that.
So the principal at the school?
No, our facilities director for the district.
Okay. Or will they be going out like daily just to look at the project and make sure it's on track and everything is getting done as it should be?
I would imagine so.
Okay, because I'm asking because that's a huge amount of money and it's all coming from taxpayer dollars. So that's my, I guess, concern about how that will be overseen, how that all of those, the gutters, the roofing, the HVAC, all of those are huge projects.
Yes, we have a facilities director who has been here for 34 years.
Okay.
He has managed the building of this building as well as many of the other schools in Monroe Township.
Okay.
He will be overseeing that project.
And his name?
Mr. Tague.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the project is half funded by the state of New Jersey through state aid.
We all pay taxes into that. We're all taxpayers. All
No,
comes out of our
absolutely.
tax dollars.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comments.
Brian Fabiano, Monroe. I have a couple of questions around the, kind of similar to what Ms. Swalge said about the construction at Applegarth School. What is the timeline for the construction to start?
I don't think we have that right now.
Oh, so you don't have a planned date? Is there an objective, or like, are you looking to do it over the summer when students aren't present? What's the projected timeline that you're trying to get to?
Do you have other questions?
I'll follow up with, based on your answer.
I just told you, it is not out there yet publicly, the exact time frame. So I'm not going to commit to what the time frame is unless it is presented to us.
Right, so what's
by our
holding up,
facilities director.
your time?
There is no time, nothing is holding us up.
So do
you have other questions?
construction costs potentially go up the longer you draw it out and don't engage? Okay, so much for transparency. You don't like to answer questions, especially around school safety, because this obviously is important to know if our students are going to be anywhere near a construction site when things go on. There's obviously budgeting for roofs, the roof, HVAC, things along those lines. If you encounter other issues, how much is built into the budget to be able to address those issues? Say there's mold uncovered or lead or anything that's not in this project as you start to get into the project. What is the buffer in the budget?
We can have Mr. Tate get back to you with those answers.
Oh, great. So you don't know, the superintendent doesn't have an answer to that, or the business administrator who's overseeing the project doesn't know from a financial perspective what that extra room is?
We will get back to you with those answers.
Okay, so that's a little bit daunting. It's nice to see that the town went out of their way to bridge this gap, and I give credit to the former board president, Michelle Arminio, for the first project that she did with the town to get the track done. It's all about collaboration. I think one of the speakers here said, it all comes from our tax dollars. So no matter if we give it to the school, or we give it across the street, or we give it to the state, it all funnels back down, and it comes from our pockets. And I think this board should probably be a little bit more appreciative of our municipal government going forward, given that they basically came to your rescue. Over the last 3 years, Ms. Skirby, you talk a lot about fiscal responsibility, getting the schools on track from a financial perspective, but you failed. And you failed us because we've had the biggest hole from a financial perspective in probably more than a decade with you at the helm. Now, we needed the town, again, taxpayers, to come and bail out the school system to be able to fund this project. And now, in 2 months from now, you're going to be asking us to give you more money. I mean, I don't know how you don't have answers to some of these financial questions when you've created one of the biggest financial sinkholes in Monroe's history in our school district, and you sit up here and do nothing but deflect and not give answers. I mean, that's not transparent. One, it shows a lack of leadership on your side, and actually, from a public's point of view, it really seems that most of the people here that are in charge of these things are asleep at the wheel. I mean, the business administrator who you have to oversee this project should be able to give us simple answers to a $5 million project around what could be potentially a problem if we don't have enough money, or what the safety impacts could be to our kids, but you all sit quiet. And I don't know if that's just because you have your head in the sand and really don't have any idea of what you're about to undertake, or you're just ignorant. I don't know which one it is, but these are questions that need to be asked, so I'd appreciate you putting Mr. Tague in my direction. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for clarity with the public, the project was submitted by our facilities director to the state of New Jersey. A detailed plan was in place. The township was asked to collaborate with us when the referendum failed to address the needs of Applegarth School that have been left unaddressed for over a decade. We have a roof that leaks over there, and we have a very outdated boiler from 1932 and outdated HVAC systems. We've said it at several meetings how much we appreciate our town government collaborating with us and willing to sit down and come up with a shared services agreement to fix our schools. It is a wonderful relationship that we have with the town, and it is continuing, a continuing relationship that we're happy to foster, because we do need to collaborate with our town officials.
I had 19 seconds left, so I'll take the rest of my time. You make a great point. It's an issue that's gone on for a long time, and it would have been fixed if it wasn't for you, Ms. President, back in 2018, advocating when the community vote down the referendum that would have fixed Applegar School then, would have fixed our overcrowding problems then. That's the problem.
Clearly you're misinformed with the 2018 referendum, because Applegarth was not and was never on the referendum then or the one after that. That was, now, I'm sorry, you're out of order, sir, but your information is incorrect. Applegarth would not have been fixed if that referendum had passed. That is false information. Good evening, Ms. Arminio.
Good evening. Michelle Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street in Monroe. On the agenda, the instruction, the teacher, there are 560.5 teachers, and also on the agenda are a few new positions. If this passes approval this evening, what would be the total teachers that would be coming in for the next budget?
Do you have any other questions?
At this time, no. I'd like an answer to that, because this is an agenda. We're going into a budget approval for for a vote for an election, and I think that's the kind of thing that we should know before we talk about the budget. I think it's a legitimate question that deserves an answer.
Okay, well, if you want an exact number this evening, we would have to get back to you on that.
I don't understand. It's on here. I didn't count. But if you put this together, we have the number of 560.5, and how many more on here are new positions? That seems like a reasonable accounting situation that could be answered
Well, are
tonight,
you
because
talking
it's
about-
on the agenda, Madam President.
You're asking for a calculation based on that. And what you're asking, I'm not sure what your question is, because you're talking about new positions or new employees. That there's a difference.
I just, specifically teachers, and how many new positions for teaching, and then actually.
There's a lot of items on the agenda, if you look at it, that say it's a new position, but these are positions that happen every year, but when they're back on the agenda for approval the following year, it has to be listed as a new position.
So
it
are
is
you
the-
saying those positions are calculated in the 560? What I'm asking you, all right, and we can even go for the overall staff, how many of those new positions are going to be new hires, positions that have not been in the budget before, and how will it be compensated in the budget? We have a budget election coming up. It's a legitimate question, I think, that the public should know.
Dr. Chanley, do we have any new teachers for approval this evening in the budget that have not been teachers here previously?
If you are referring, oh wait, if you're referring to where it says new position, instructional rate, EL teacher, portfolio
No,
approval?
throughout this agenda, it says new positions.
It has to. Every year, the way it works is positions that we utilize on a yearly basis, because they're not tenurable, they are considered new positions.
Okay, so are they calculated in?
Absolutely.
In this, so there will be no, so the
For next year,
total.
this budget, what you have in front of you, anything that's put in new, is accounted in the current budget of the 2023-2024 school year. Automatically.
So how many teachers will?
You can't ask me now about next year's budget.
The budget that we're going to be voting on.
Well, we haven't had that budget meeting yet, so when we have that budget meeting, that will be part of the presentation.
Well, didn't we just vote, didn't you just have a special election for the budget that's going into next year?
No, we did not.
What was the February 5th budget? Special meeting.
That was a special meeting for strategic planning. We had our representative from New Jersey
Okay.
School Boards here to
And
talk about the
okay,
plan.
that's fine. I would just like to say, since I've heard this here, we were talking about relationships with the municipality and very grateful for the help. But when we say relationship with the municipality, let's be clear, the relationship is with the people of Monroe who send their tax dollars into the municipality. It's great that leaders of the municipal government are willing to discuss with the Board of Education, as well they should, in my opinion, to help the budget for the children. But it's not just the leaders of the municipality, it's every single taxpayer who pays every month or on a regular basis to support the municipal budget and the school budget. So the relationship should also be with the people who come up here and ask questions. And the respect and deference to some of these questions, I think, should be kept in mind, especially since we're going out to ask all of those people to vote for our children and to vote for a budget. So I would remind you that the relationship is really with the people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
George Gunkelman, 5 Kelly Court, Monroe. I would like to make a request. Having been coming to meetings for longer than Jerry
Is this a
Tate has worked
question
here.
on the agenda?
Yeah.
Sir? Okay.
Any other questions? Get them out now. That's what we have to do. I'd like to request that Jerry Tague start coming to meetings on a regular basis like he always used to. I don't know whose idea it was for him not to come to board meetings, but for the first dozen or so years that he worked here, he was at every board meeting. And I don't know if that was a particular thing of those boards, but now we have many millions of dollars of projects to involved, scheduling, which no one is able to address. He's submitted something to the state, which no one is allowed to share with us, other than that he has submitted it. We can understand that it's subject to approval. We're not dumb out here. So let someone present what you're going forward with, rather than always give us an after the fact thing, oh, this is what we've decided to do. The reason we come to meetings is to find out what's going to happen and see if there's a reason why we should come forward and say, you know, you might look at this a little different, or you might look at this aspect different. That's why we come. We don't come just to hear or to read this. We come to have a chance for an input. And so please, it's probably a waste of time. But Jerry was very good at meetings, very effective, and not a threat to anybody, least of all the board. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other members, we will close the public forum. The next item on the agenda is our Assistant Superintendent's report. Dr. Lehman?
Sure, thank you. So I have a couple updates. I just wanted to congratulate our athletic teams. They're in various stages of postseason competitions. We have some state competitions, some district wrestling was this past weekend, and all of our teams are doing extremely well. We will have a celebration of their accomplishments later in the spring like we always do. But for those teams still competing, good luck, and keep an eye on our schedules. We'll make sure there's a lot of information about competitions if you want to attend any of their competitions and state competitions and, games and matches and things. Two specific things I wanted to highlight. One is coming up this weekend, the end of this week and this weekend, and then another event that happened this past weekend. So NJMEA State Conference, that's the Music Educators Association, is held the next 3 days down in Atlantic City. It's for music educators of all levels representing the 3 regions in New Jersey, that's the North, Central, and South. We're fortunate that 2 of our MTMS, or middle school performing groups, successfully auditioned to earn a performance spot at the conference. So the Falcon Jazz Ensemble and the Chamber Singers from the middle school, both groups are performing as a part of a concert down in Atlantic City in the Convention Center this Friday afternoon. And we wish the students and the directors good luck. Additionally, we have high school band and chorus students that successfully auditioned for the 2024 NJMEA, that's the New Jersey Music Educator Association All-State Band and Treble Chorus, and they will also be in Atlantic City the next 3 days with their respective groups, and will be performing this Saturday afternoon at the NJ PAC in Newark. So that's exciting to honor and recognize those accomplishments for our arts students. And then something that happened this past weekend was our second of 2 robotics competitions that we hosted in the township. The snow was just early enough in the evening that we were able to host our event as scheduled without any delays on Saturday. Our custodial team did an amazing job doing a quick shovel and clearing the parking lots so we could start our event at about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. These events are full-day events. We hosted, 22 teams on our first competition, which was January 27th, and 34 teams from around the state, high schools around the state, came here this past Saturday to compete in our robotics competition. Both home competitions, our team won. So congratulations to our robotics team. That's the first time in many, many years that we've won our competitions. Those are our second and third wins of the season. Our first win was down in Cherry Hill. The teacher in charge of the group, the coach essentially, said it's an unheard of accomplishment for our robotics team. It's a young team. It's 5 to 7 years in making, and this is a tremendous accomplishment. So we have 3 teams, all of which have been invited to participate in the state competition, which is called the VRC Over Under New Jersey State Championship, which is held in the New Jersey Institute of Technology on March 9th. So we wish them luck. And they also won a design award and a create award. So I highlight this activity because it also represents some partnerships that we have with universities and local businesses. So we had students from Rutgers serve as tournament manager, field element connectors, judges, and referees. We had NJIT students, which were head referees, judges. We had engineers from Jack Tool, which is a local company. They served as judges, as well as tons of staff that come here and volunteer their time to participate. And we have all of our regular crew here in terms of custodial staff that supported the event. So this is a nice kind of snapshot of a real community-wide event that comes together to host, like I said, 34 teams from across the state, which is North Jersey, South Jersey. They drove through the snow to get here, so we appreciate that, and congratulations to our robotics team. And that's it.
The next item on our agenda is our superintendent's report.
I just wanted to
Ms. Ratner?
comment on something really quick about the NJMEA conference. In addition to the groups performing, I also just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Snyder because he is actually, I believe it is at this conference, he's the president-elect for the New Jersey Music Educators Association. I believe he takes the reins this weekend, and so that's a volunteer position, and it's something that I know he's been working at with many years, so I just wanted to congratulate him on that.
Thank you. Our next item is our superintendent's report. Dr. Chanley?
Thank you very much. So I want to start off by some of the comments that were made. We are very excited that we have been able to collaborate with the township, working with the mayor, working with the business administrator's office, so that we can have the additional $5 million funded to us, which will be included of the $5 million that's coming from the state. We will be working directly with Mr. Chaig. He was not able to be here this evening. He was not actually at work as well. So I do agree that it is very appropriate, and he would be present at the next opportunity. I think also perhaps we will have a conversation with him. Of course, Mr. Tefano is the committee chair, but I think it would be very appropriate based upon the feedback that I'm hearing, that during our buildings grounds meeting, that it's appropriate for him to go into details about the plan of action. I do believe that with his knowledge and his experience working directly with not only his staff, but with the subcontractors that will be on the job, as well as the principals, to ensure the safety of the students. Regarding timing, certain things absolutely need to be done in the summer. Some things are able to be done during the school year. The middle school was renovated while children were present. We have a lot of schools that are renovated when necessary with children present, but we are very careful to make sure that we work with our director of security as well as our security guards who help ensure the safety, and we got to work directly with the administration. So I think that it would be extremely appropriate for it to be on BG&T committee, as well as to have him present if he is able to attend. I will ask him to be present at our next Board of Education meeting so that we can have direct answers, to be transparent, to be able to say we are beyond excited, and I thank them again, the municipality, that they have worked. We met on a couple of occasions. It was literally within the last 2 weeks, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks. I want to say it was February 5th. I'm trying to think of the actual date where it was approved. I apologize. Does that sound right? So it's not that it's been in the making for years and we're ignoring it. It is something that we were so excited we didn't know if it was going to be approved. Now that it's going to be approved, we will be able to have the specific information so that we can be transparent, and we do provide what you have a right to hear. So I wanted to start off by saying that. So that's information that's forthcoming, because there is a plan. That being said, I want to thank our student liaisons. They do such a wonderful job, but they do steal my thunder, because they talk about a lot of the activities that the children experience while in the schools, and I have the pleasure, because I do go to a lot of schools, to see them. I was part of Woodland's presidential trivia game. It was a lot of fun. The kids loved it. They loved to participate. It was very exciting. I had an opportunity also to be present at Ohm's breakfast. Ohm Parikh is a young man who passed, I want to say this is his 5th anniversary. He passed. He was a student in my school while I was the principal. His parents have taken up the helm to do a walk, which is happening, I want to say it's May 19th off the top of my head. Ms. Bohr, does that sound correct? Yes. May 19th, we will be sending out flyers to assist them with anybody who's able to come. I believe this will be the 5th annual walk. He's a young man who died from brain cancer, and the parents have taken up the charge of raising money for cancer awareness, specifically pediatric cancer. I know that it's one of many. We've had others in the past. It is a wonderful way that these parents, there is a sister as well, and the mom and dad, they want their child to leave a legacy, and that is their legacy. Something that we did in the middle school is we created Ohm's Oasis. It is the area in which we do unlock when the weather is nice and the children can go out there because they can't, it's just it's a secure area. We have picnic tables. They do activities every year. We do them in February, which is the month in which he lost his life. So I do go every year, and we were very fortunate to have Ms. Skirby and Ms. Bora to be able to attend. And they do a lot of great things. They put little sticky notes. It's all about positive. It's all about optimism. They put it all over the different lockers. They do various different activities throughout the week, and it's really a nice way to remember a child who has brought nothing but positivity to our district. Okay, so I did have some comments written out here, which I'm not going to read because thank you, Dr. Lehman. So our robotics, we did great jobs. One of the things I would like to give a shout out to that was not mentioned, we did talk about the awesomeness of all of our sports, and we did even mention cheer, but we forgot to mention hockey. Yes. So that was very important. So hockey won the GMC, right, and that's a very big deal. Our ice hockey, we've had a couple of different Mr. DeFelipe, did I say that correctly? He is the current coach. Previous to him was Mr. Minter years ago. He was a teacher over in Applegarth many, many years ago when we were in middle school. And it is really, they say it takes a village. It really does take the collaboration of everybody. They work so hard, our children. They work so hard academically, socially, in various different activities. And it's such a big deal when we have any of our teams win. So I wanted to give a shout out to our hockey team on their accomplishment. Lastly, I had the absolute pleasure, another activity is something we do monthly, to have a liaison with our students. We have a liaison. We have 2 children per grade starting in the 6th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. They stay until they graduate, so they move up. It's wonderful. Some of the things that they brought back to me, which I think is appropriate to mention here at the Board of Education meeting, was their excitement about having more classes that have now become available in the area of computer science. We started doing something a little bit differently. We checked the certification, and now we have a lot of our teachers who have Project Lead the Way certification. They can legitimately, for credit, go ahead and teach that. So a lot of our children, it was brought to me as a concern by a lot of parents, were being closed out. Another thing is, it used to be that if you were a junior becoming a senior, it's something that we discussed at a curriculum meeting, you could not take one of the computer science classes. Do not quote me, it's not A and B, but I'm going to refer to it as A and B. So one was computer A, the other one was computer B. If you were going to be a senior, they would not allow you to take computer A because you could not be in the building to take computers B. After working with the supervisors and with Dr. Higgins, the high school principal, and Dr. Lehman, we were able to see that because it was not a prerequisite, that was something that was not necessary. So now many of our children who wanted to take what would be the equivalent of, let's say, computers A, now can take it knowing that they won't be here to take computer B. So it's just these type of comments and questions and, just feedback that they give us. Sometimes it's as simple as, Dr. Chandler, when we get to the last lunch, we no longer have napkins. They literally bring this up. Well, that's important to them. They want to have napkins. They like the way the lunches are. Now they have an extra. They removed one of the lunch periods, extended the lunch time, and they now have lunch in the commons. The kids love it. They said it's better. So the reason why I share this with you is because just like you want us to answer to you, we also have to answer to our children. So I want to let you know that's something that I do on a monthly basis. And this year was Asian cuisine. And we always have a Met's Food Group, which is our subcontracting company. They come in and they provide a meal for the kids, and they try and mix it up with different things, and they try different foods, and then it becomes part of the menu. So I did want to share that. Another thing which I think is very important, because we tend sometimes to forget about it, should be about the positive. We are very excited that we had moved one class, and we're continuing to look at our special education self-contained programs. Until the recent years, within the last year or two, a lot of our programs were designated in certain schools. And, we're very large, whatever we are, 44, 45 square miles, 46, whatever it might be. And some of these programs require our children, and it was part of the thing that we brought up when we went on our when we were out there trying to get our referendum approved, is that children who would normally be with brothers, sisters, neighbors are not able to matriculate in their home school because the program that is unique to their needs is across town in perhaps Mill Lake or Woodland or Buckley Brook or Brookside. So I'm very excited after working with Ms. Ruella and working with supervisors and working with the principals, we will for next year be able to move back one of those self-contained classes that are currently in the Mill Lake School. They will be brought back to the home school of Oak Tree, and they will get to matriculate with their brothers and sisters and their neighbors. And I thought it was important to comment that in my superintendent's report because we are here for the children. And that is one of the things that is very important. Can you imagine getting on a bus and your brother and sister, but because of the programs that you need, you're not in school. You're not in the same school, so I'm very excited. And we are looking also at the autistic program at the middle school. We're looking to have that class physically moved to the high school because of the vocational programs and the extensive opportunities with Unified. And that is something that we feel very confident we'll be able to do regarding the classroom staffing, working once again with the principals, Dr. Higgins, Ms. Ruella, and that's something that I do want to share because it's something that is going to come to fruition. On that note, I would like to wish a Falcon farewell to 3 individuals who will be retiring. Ms. Cherie McCoy, who's been our data processing clerk here. She was actually what we called our permanent substitute teachers, which we no longer have, but that's what it was called, in Applegarth School when I was the vice principal there. And she has been in the district for 27 years, so we wish her well as she flies the nest. We have Angela Tesserero, 24 years as a special education para at Buckley Brook. We know, when we say it quite often, our teachers are so important, but so are our paras, so are our bus drivers, so are our lunch ladies and lunch gentlemen, if we have any. And we wish her well on her next endeavor. And of course, lastly but not least, is Kimberly Martini. She has spent 18 years with us as a special education para in Buckley Brook as well. We wish her well, and we know that when people have the opportunity to retire, they go on, hopefully, to great things, and we wish them health and enjoyment of vacationing and family. And regarding our recommendations, I start with our 10-member vote. It is recommended the board approve the attached personnel items A through T.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Are there any questions for Dr. Chanley?
Yes.
Ms. Bilko?
So, going back to public forum, I just would like an explanation about, sorry, I have my mic, Michelle. About the positions that are listed here as new positions. And I've been doing this for a few years, so I understand that these positions, and just correct me if I'm wrong, my question is these positions are positions that we vote on yearly. They're not new positions, but each year, if it's a position that needs someone in it, the staff has an opportunity to apply or bid for that position. And I'll just use as an example, the position of the school nurse for the FBLA conference, right? So that, if you look at that, that's there. So there are new positions every year because maybe we won't have an FBLA conference next year, or we do. So we only hire these people for this limited time for those pieces. There are a few positions that I was a little curious about. The ones that are listed, there is number 19. Is a teacher of health and physical education. It's a 17 additional. Is this to cover a leave?
Yes.
Okay. So it says new position, it doesn't say leave replacement, so that can be confusing if you're reading this and you're seeing a new position. So I'm just curious there. There's also, I see the paras for the unified basketball tournaments and things, and I would have to assume that we had to put that out there, paras available to do those jobs that's there. My other question was, where was it? Hold on a second. The appeals process, that was one that that's self-limiting though, that looks like it was in January, and this is a retroactive approval for those two pieces, is that correct?
Yes, and that is state required.
So these are state required that we have to do those?
That's correct.
Okay. And the BCBA teacher oversee, that's from February to June. Are we replacing a teacher? What are we doing?
What number is that?
Number 5 on letter R.
Okay, so one of the things that we started, and actually we started this last year, is called an RBT. So it's a Registered Behavior Technician.
Okay.
It gives us an opportunity for, in our self-contained classes, to have a para who goes through appropriate training, passes the test to get the certification, to then be able to step up and do more than just what a regular para would do. By law, let me rephrase, by code, you need to then have a BCBA to oversee them. That was something that was brought to personnel.
Yes.
To approve the amounts of monies, and the sidebar was already approved. We, unfortunately, did not have anybody who was willing to step up and oversee the person, so now we do, so therefore it is considered a new position.
So this is truly a new position. Will we be putting this position in the budget for next year?
Yes, and it's already there because it's an
Okay.
amount, it's a specific amount of money. It's.
Do we budget that for this
Yes,
current budget year?
that's correct.
I thought we did, I just wanted,
Yes.
Yeah,
wanted
just a
for sake
clarification,
of,
not personnel, this time this was approved like 4 months ago.
4 months ago.
In personnel, just for everybody.
the position was approved in
Yes,
personnel, but we're now
And
approving
the
the
money is-
person,
Correct.
the person for it.
There was
So-
no individual to
Yeah,
take that
so-
person.
So part of the process is we approve the position, then we
Post it.
post it for people to be hired into it. So now we are approving this person to be in that role.
That's correct.
Okay. So I just want to make sure we have some clarification before I make my vote. I want to make sure that I understand. This one I got, this one. There was that one, I think. And can I assume that under the 9-member vote, that will be the same response to those? Because there were 13 for the 10-member vote, and I counted 3 for the 9-member vote, but we can do that at the 9-member vote.
sure.
But thank you for answering my question.
My pleasure.
Anybody else? Ms. Ratner?
Yep, I have 2 quick questions. So the first one is the leave replacement number 20 for the school counselor. It's at 117% school counselor. I was curious, I guess, if that's covering a counselor that's on leave, because usually there's multiple 17% that would be covering students or classes if it was a teacher. So I was curious what that is.
So the way it works with guidance, depending upon the need and depending upon the length of time, because this also covers the week that we happen to be on spring break, and it also covers, it is dependent upon the need. The principal will have the conversation with myself or Dr. Lehman about the need of what they need to pick up. So if it's a full caseload of 100 children that they see on a regular basis, then perhaps it will be more than 117%. And even though the guidance counselors and the child study team members are in the same contract, and they still are to work the same amount of periods, it doesn't work that way because of the nature of their job. So I was told that that is the only need that we have.
Okay, and thank you. And then my other question, I noticed that there are some leave replacements that, Ms. Bora is smiling at me. I noticed that there are some leave replacements. Oh, okay, that are TBD and others that have specific end dates for leave replacements. And so I was just curious what the reasoning is.
So what happens is, when you give someone a contract, you're bound by that contract. When it is well, I don't even know, well, I guess I could say maternity because it comes in here, right? So when there is a maternity leave, I actually had this conversation yesterday with Ms. Christie, our Director of Human Resources. For purposes of payroll, we determine who gets a date and who gets a to be determined. So when someone is out on leave and they have the ability to extend, we leave it as to be determined. Otherwise, every time they extend, not everybody takes a year. Some people literally take 6 weeks at a time, and they have that legal right. So rather than have to do a new payroll every single month, we leave to be determined so that it becomes more practical for the payroll department. Some leaves are specific to not maternity leaves, other health issues, and then some also are a position that we know we're only filling for X amount of time.
Okay, but so just to clarify, if there was a medical leave or someone planned to be out, let's say, until May 1st,
Okay.
but then they decide that they would like to come back earlier.
Correct. They are permitted to come back, and then the contract would be changed. That is
Okay.
correct.
So then the person who's covering that would be changed as well.
That's
After
correct.
that, retroactively to an extent.
Then you would see a change. You would get an approval, once again, for the 17%, but the date would be changed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions? All right, Ms. Allen, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Tofano?
Yes.
Mr. Gorham?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Ratner?
Yes.
Ms. DePayne?
Yes.
Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Under a 9-member vote, it is recommended the board approve the attached personnel items U through AX.
Can we get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions? Ms. Belko?
Okay, so under, I think it's AV, numbers 24, 25, and 29. On the number 25 really is the one the library maker space family night, I understand that that's hourly rate for that night.
For that
And then
evening.
the Title I piece of that is just that this is coming out of Title I funds, or?
That's correct.
That's what I thought, okay. Just want to clarify. And then and I do believe that a member of the public asked this question about the school counselor ASCA Career Specialist course. That happens to be like 5 months. So are we teaching this course over a set period to professional development? Is this a course we're teaching to students? What are we doing here? Or are they writing a course?
No, that's a counselor taking a course, and we are covering the time, we are compensating them, because we're requiring them to take it, compensating them for their time outside of work that they're putting in the hours to do the training and things, because this doesn't necessarily take place
So
during
that's
their
why
work
it's
time.
under personnel, because we're compensating for the time. Are we
Correct.
also paying for the course?
Yes,
Because we're requiring the course because of the job role?
correct,
Just
correct.
want some clarity. Okay. The pit musician, obviously, we would have that every year anyway, right, for the pit?
Correct.
Okay. Just
And
clarifying.
everything is listed as new position because every year it's considered new.
Okay, that's it. Those were the ones that I just wanted to call out. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? All right, Ms. Allen, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. DePayne?
Yes.
Mr. Gorham?
Yes.
Mr. Tofano?
Yes.
Ms. Ratner?
Yes.
Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Under a 10-member vote, it is recommended the board approve the attached board action items A through F.
May I get a
Motion.
motion to approve?
Second.
All right, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Mr. Tofano?
Can you let the board know how F came to fruition? How we were able to secure the golf team to play for free? Because I think that's a beautiful thing.
Either one of us, I could read it. or-
We've been playing at no charge at both courses for as long as I've been aware. So what we've been doing the past couple of years is memorializing our transportation there, approving that location as a place that we can transport the students to compete at or practice at. But we certainly are thankful and appreciate the generosity of both courses to let our teams practice and compete there.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yep.
wonderful thing that both Clearbrook and Forest Gate do, is allow our students to play there for free. That's incredible. Just wanted, the public to know that,
Thank you.
in case they didn't read it,
Yes.
Ms. Belka?
I have a follow-up question to that, in that response. Do we have the appropriate insurance riders for that, for our students?
Yes, that's part of the approval process, and the same process we go through for approving the bowling lanes that our students go and bowl at, cheer for practice, any of the out-of-district. Yep.
Thank you.
And if I can,
Support?
yeah, I was going to do this in my other board business, give them a shout out, but you stole my thunder.
Sorry.
But I also want to mention, I had asked this question earlier before the meeting, and it was shared that the pros there is an alum of Monroe High School.
Wow.
So it's just such a good, feel-good thing that not only are the two communities allowing our students to practice, but we have an alum who has a hand in it.
Awesome. Do you have a name for that guy? No? Okay.
Ms. Fabiano?
I just have a question on the calendar. I know that the elementary, middle, and high school all have half-days for conferences at different points in the year. Is there a reason why we don't have it as just 1 week where all the schools have conferences the same week for the same chunk of time? Just thinking, like, from a parent perspective, it kind of gets confusing with schedules, that one student's in school a full day, another student's in school a half day. If you have, kids in multiple schools, that sometimes the schedules just get a little...
And that's actually it's a good question. The middle school will never have conferences the same time as any of the elementary schools on purpose, because a lot of parents have children that are in the middle school and in the elementary school. So we actually had some conflicts in the past with that. As far as the elementary schools, it's one of those things that we can look at, but it's just something that it was inherited. It's always been like that. It doesn't mean it can't be changed. It doesn't mean that's something that you can't look at. We could sit down and meet with the principals to have that conversation. I don't know if Dr. Lehman's been here a little bit longer than I have in his position, but as far as I know, they've always had different weeks that they have had conferences. But it doesn't mean it's not something that we could turn around and look at. Absolutely.
Ms. Ratner?
Yep. Just to follow up really quick with the calendar, the December 2024, I had just noticed when we were sitting here, it mentions the high school conferences, I'm assuming. It says MTHS 4-hour session, grades 9 to 12, but doesn't have a date. So I just didn't know if that's TBD, because I know it said TBD somewhere else.
It's TBD.
Okay, and if that was conferences, again, I was assuming, oh, it's not.
No, the 20th being an early dismissal day?
No, the one above that.
I'm sorry.
There it says December blank, at least from what I have here.
Yeah, because they haven't given us a
Okay,
date yet.
that is for the conferences.
Yes, that's for conferences.
Okay, and then the other one really quick was just April 24th. I saw that it said Holocaust, and I love the idea of honoring that. I just wasn't sure if it's for Memorial Day, Remembrance Day, so I wasn't sure if we could possibly
fix it,
add that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that I started doing when I became acting is I think it's nice when possible that even though we're not off on these days, just to acknowledge all the different groups of people's holidays. When it's possible. It's getting very small and very difficult in the type. But yeah, I believe it's Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Okay, I couldn't remember which one's in January, which one was in.
Yeah, and then we have the other thing, the Yom HaShoah.
Yeah.
Right. So I will double check and have it.
Thank you.
Have it qualified.
And then just sort of to follow up with what Mr. Tufano had said about Forest Gate, I also think it's fantastic we're able to utilize those facilities. I was curious if we've reached out to any of the other locations to see if we can possibly form some type of partnership. I don't really know what we could do, but when I was looking through the bill list, I saw that we spend just for February like $12,000 for the ice hockey rink. And by all means, I want these kids to have that opportunity. So I'm certainly not saying we should not be using it, but we're obviously not building a ice hockey rink as an attachment to our school anytime soon. I was curious if there's anything that we can do to sort of foster a similar working relationship with, whether it's that, the places that have the pools for the swim team, anything like that, to sort of cut down on our costs and still provide that.
I can answer that. So Mr. Barandica has been doing that. So I know ice is a tough one because it's super expensive, and I know that they've switched to more than one rink for that reason. And I know that also even in swimming, they utilize one for the practice, but it has the soft sides, versus one for the competition because it's a little bit less expensive. But I am aware that he has reached out and should continue to see what other facilities, if any, that not only can we be cheaper, but anybody who's willing to provide anything, they would be happy to pro bono. So it's a very good comment.
Mr. Tufano?
In relation to what you just said, I believe that Mr. Barandica did recently get a big reduction in cost, and we had to vote on that
On the ice hockey.
to change the.
That's correct. So we are, it's still
we're
expensive, but
trying,
we are
yeah.
saving some money.
Does anyone have any other questions? All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Gorham?
Yes.
Ms. Ratner?
Yes.
Ms. DePayne?
Yes.
Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And lastly, it is recommended the board approve the attached board action items G through M.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, are there any questions? All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Ms. DePayne?
Yes.
Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Ms. Ratner?
Yes.
Mr. Gorham?
Yes.
Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
That concludes my superintendent's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chanley. The next item on our agenda is our business administrator's report. Ms. Allen?
It is recommended that board action items A through L be approved by consent roll call for a 10-member vote.
May we get a
Motion.
motion to approve?
Second.
Are there any questions for Ms. Allen? Mr. Payne?
I have a question on 4. We have the Lennox Law Firm again listed. I don't know if you can, if it's personnel or whatever, can you give us why it's back again? Or why it's continuing to be on our agenda?
Yes. This is for a new case, ethics case, and this is the firm that will be representing the individual.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Ratner?
Yep. Just two quick things. First, for letter A, number 1, is that, I'm assuming that's a retroactive payment that is being made? I just didn't know if that has to be listed.
Sorry, I'm looking for it. Oh, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
And then I just wanted to thank somebody, and I wrote it down. Where is it? Oh, I totally forgot. Oh, the Booster Club for the donation that was made. Okay, that's all.
Anybody else? All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Scott? Oops.
Yes.
Ms. Scott? Mr. Gorham?
Yes.
Ms. DePayne?
Yes, but I recuse on an issue under K where it pertains to me.
Yep, okay. Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Ms. Ratner?
Yes, recuse on the bill list addendum, 61236 for Mr. Ratner, 61287 for Mr. Snyder, and 60864 for Mr. Rubin.
Okay. Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes, abstain from check number 60864 on the bill list.
Okay. Motion passes. Okay, it is recommended that board action items M through O be approved by consent roll call under a 9-member vote.
Okay, can we get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Wait,
Second.
I have different letters.
Yeah.
I have Q through,
Oh,
this is the new agenda.
The new one we got tonight, yeah.
Q through F.
T-U.
Yeah.
Three to you.
Q through you.
okay. Okay,
Q
sorry,
through U.
Q through
Yeah,
U.
that's what I have
Okay,
too.
okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
Second.
Are there any questions? All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms. Ratner?
Yes, recuse on letter Q, number 1.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Ms. DePayne?
Yes.
Mr. Tofano?
Yes.
Mr. Gorham?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes. That concludes my report.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the board president's report. As I mentioned, and it's been mentioned again, we are very happy that the shared services agreement has been approved by the town. I know I speak on behalf of the board when I say thank you to our township council. Without the towns matching the grant from the state, we would not be able to fix the very necessary items at Applegarth School that include the roof and the HVAC system. These repairs were some of the things that myself and Ms. Bora had been outspoken about in the community prior to being on the board, and it is an incredibly proud moment to see those repairs finally coming to fruition. I'm also excited to announce that we have a second shared services agreement with the town being finalized. This is for the server for the cable channel. It has been discussed over the last several months that the server is no longer working and needed to be replaced. This has been resulted in both the town council meetings and the Board of Education meetings not being able to be aired on the cable channel. As we understand the importance to the community to be able to watch the meetings on the cable channel, and the district and the town began talks about how to proceed. It has been spoken about during our Buildings, Grounds, and Transportation meetings, as well as when we met with the township regarding the first shared services agreement. The town has agreed to pay for the server and split the annual subscription fee with the district. The agreement will be discussed at the upcoming committee meetings and presented to the board at the next Board of Education meeting for approval. These two shared services agreements represent an incredible working relationship between the school district and the township. This positive relationship allows for the collaboration that is necessary to continue to maintain the standards in our schools at a high level that our community expects. I also want to share that I had this pleasure to attend the student liaison meeting a few weeks ago. It is so great to hear from our students at both the middle school and the high school discuss the things that they feel important to the students and ask questions of the administration and get real answers and real action that is taken coming from those meetings. As you know, the district has been requesting for quite some time to have the town select other locations for elections to be held other than in our schools. The township has confirmed that the Oak Tree School will no longer be a polling location. All of those voters who have previously voted at the Oak Tree School will be now voting at the Monroe Township Senior Center. The district is still hoping that the town will agree to move the polls out of Woodland School and Brookside School. The safer and more secure that we can make our schools is the better for the entire community. Board members, I just want to remind everybody to complete their disclosures by the end of February if you haven't already done so. And lastly, I want to thank the administration for all of the hard work they are putting into the budget creation this year. I know you are all eagerly anticipating seeing the budget, and when it is complete, I want to thank the team that has been working so hard between the administration, the principals, and everybody in the district who is coming together to create this budget. I think we are hoping that the board will be receiving the budget sometime next week, as soon as Ms. Allen has that done. However, we do not have the state numbers to date, so I think we would be seeing that without the state numbers. And that concludes my report. Ms. Bora?
No questions for you.
Oh, I'm
Other board
sorry.
business.
The next item on our agenda is other board business. Ms. Bora?
Thank you. I want to start by acknowledging the hard work that Mrs. Kirby, yourself, and the administration has put into moving the elections out of Oak Tree School. I know you're still trying for Woodland, and I've been able to see some of the behind-the-scenes work with meetings and back-and-forth emails that you guys have been persistently doing. So thank you on behalf of the students, the staff, and the rest of the board for bringing that to fruition. It's a big accomplishment. For my other board business, I also want to say a heartfelt thanks to Dr. Chanley and her team for this calendar that was approved today. It is not an easy task ever for any superintendent to put the calendar together, and I am one of those board members that made it even more difficult for her for the last 2 years. And so, Mrs. Chanley, I want to, on behalf of the Indian community, thank you for making Diwali a holiday for staff and students. I know in the past you've done staff and service and you've acknowledged it on the calendar as Diwali, but for you to give this as a day off, I know you had to jump through hoops. The Indian students are a significant percentage of our student demographic, and giving that day off is a big step towards inclusion and diversity, and it helps spread awareness for the biggest holiday that they have in their culture. So I thank you for doing that and for ending school year on June 20th, which is a great accomplishment. I don't remember ever ending on June 20th in the last decade or so. So this is great and exciting that we will be considering Rutgers for our next graduation venue.
Actually, if I can say that. So we have secured Rutgers, Jersey Mike's Arena for the 20th on Friday at 3 p.m. for the first time ever graduation, and we worked very hard. We wanted to bring our graduation back to our county because we were always going to Trenton. So that was one of the things I really wanted to work hard to do. And I give a shout out to Dr. Higgins, who's in the back, because he makes the phone calls to try and make it happen. And a lot of manipulation trying to make everybody happy with the calendar.
So Dr. Higgins, shout out to you as well for making that happen. I'm actually going to be one of those proud parents for the first batch graduating from Rutgers. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about was the buses. We just approved getting rid of 11 buses, and I found out from Ms. Allen that we bought 8 buses last year, and we're budgeting to buy new buses again this year. So that's a constant in our budget. And I wanted to urge our administration to start looking at grants for electric buses. For the last couple NJSBA conferences that I've gone to, they have really been pushing for it. There's grant money out there. And if we are purchasing so many buses every year, I think it might be time for us to start that conversation. I know it always, there's going to be pros and cons, but we should have that conversation, hopefully, Mr. Tufano and your committee soon. I also wanted to give a shout out for a few donations that are that were approved on the agenda today. One that Mr. Tufano mentioned, there is a business that is supporting one of our enrichment programs, Mrs. Kumar's. I want to give them a shout out. We also received a donation from a family that just came to the board office in mail, a check for $500. I was trying to find out what the context was. Apparently, there was no context to it. The family had just sent a check in. So I'm sharing that publicly because every dollar counts, and there are generous families out there who have matchings from their businesses or their jobs, and it's an avenue for us to collect money as a school district. And my last comment is about the Optimistic Home Day that I attended. I had the fortune to attend as board leadership was invited, and I heard a story that day about why there's a week of optimism in middle school, and I wanted to share that publicly. I've been, doing a lot of these events around town as a community member, and I'm very attached to the family and the tragedy and what they've made out of it. But to hear a teacher say why they have what they have made out of this, it was very touching. When Om was an 8th grader or a 7th grader, Ms. Wizaki shared the story because she leads the senator team to do this program. She asked the students to introduce themselves with an adjective, and Om was fighting for his life at that time. And he introduced himself as Optimistic Om. And so this starts with Om, and it has become, in the last 5 years, I have goosebumps as I'm talking about it. He has touched from 5-year-olds to 90-year-olds in this town with his story and with what has been made out of his story. And I feel fortunate that I was able to watch the programs that happen around that week firsthand. there was a fishbowl conversation, and that group of students did so amazing in terms of talking about something with so much passion. Everything that day was very, very moving. So May 19th, there is a community event again. I urge everybody to go out there and support. It's what being part of the community is. So thank you for the time, Madam President.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
I was fortunate to attend another performance by, this was a Monroe Township Middle School Falcon Jazz Ensemble, performed Thursday 15th at Rossmore Meeting House. I'm going to pass these again so you see what children represented our district at this. I mean, Mr. Ratner did a wonderful job of directing the children, but each one of them got up individually, talked a little bit about themselves, and introduced the song that they were going to be talking about. And I was laughing to Mr. Snyder. I said, they were talking about, well, they said Harry Mancini, but, of course, I was probably born after Harry Mancini, but Henry Mancini, and I was laughing to myself, I wonder if they know what the background is on all these wonderful musicians that they spoke about and played for that day. And it was a phenomenal, wonderful thing to see our middle school perform, and the children were fantastic. Another thing, I don't know if anybody gets the home news, my husband has to read 3 papers a day. New Jersey's weighing lifting the 2% tax cap for districts facing cuts. And there's a wonderful article in there. Senator Gopal, Senator Gopal, who will be at the March 6th Middlesex County School Boards Association meeting, will be presenting that evening. The topic is going to be teacher shortages, but this senator and the other female senator, whatever her name.
Andrew Zicker.
Zicker, they're pushing through all these things to stop the 2% cap. And the article is really phenomenal. I'm not going to take up your time on it, but it's a good read, and it's a good future, possibly, if they get rid of the cap, because South Brunswick and some of the districts surrounding spoke about it, how it's killing the districts for the past 7 years, and we're part of that. So they're saying how many people, they're going to start with the new director, director of education, and there was 1 million names, 1 million people that are going to be involved. So I think more of that type of leadership up there involved in the schools for change, hopefully somebody will have an impact on what's happening to districts like us.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say, I also attended a New Jersey School Boards Association workshop, and officers were invited throughout the state. And we had a speaker who was just phenomenal. She was entertaining. Her name was Tracy Severns. They're going to try to get her down to school boards convention. Topic was communication and how we all have to communicate wherever we are. If we're speaking to a group, if we're speaking to an audience, if Dr. Chanley is invited to go speak to another district on something we did here, how to address people in an audience, how to not be playing with your cell phone, how to, the first thing says here, and why does it matter, communication? Because our schools are only as good as the conversations within them, and that was Mr. Jim Knight. And I have to add, our schools are only as good as the conversations between us, back and forth, no matter what, no matter when. If there's questions, I'm sorry, but they should be answered. And if they can't be answered here, they have to take their name and address or their phone number. Every question that comes before this board, and I've been part of something like that in the past, was answered, not that night. Somebody would say, well, we'd be looking at everybody going, well, we don't know. But we will get that answer for you. And I'm telling you, they had answers within the next couple days. So this seminar, this workshop was phenomenal. And I think if it's offered down at School Boards Convention, if all board members go, we all need to go. So thank you.
Thanks. And I just wanted to mention that bill that you had mentioned that was put forth. It's a bill being put forth to allow districts that were affected by S2, that
Right.
had cuts to
Right.
their state funding
Yes.
to go over the 2% cap.
Right.
Which quite honestly is appalling for us here in Monroe.
Right.
Because we have not received the proper funding that we have. And what S2 did was, it said, we, the state of New Jersey, have been overfunding your district,
Right.
and now we're taking back the funding and distributing it to the districts like Monroe that have not gotten the proper funding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now those districts are saying, well, we can't operate in
Right.
that 2% cap because we lost our funding.
Yes.
So now we should have special privileges
Right.
outside of all the other districts in New Jersey, and we should be allowed to go over the cap without asking our voters.
That's right.
This
That's
would
what that
not
article-
affect, this
yeah.
would not affect us, and quite honestly, it's really not, I don't think that's fair for the state to do that, given the predicament that we're in with, we haven't gotten the funding. You know, I mean, to celebrate that they're going to allow other districts to do something that we're pigeonholed into this issue of not getting the funding that we deserve. And now because the state has acknowledged that they needed to make cuts to other districts to spread out the funding to districts that weren't getting their fair share of the funding, now they're going to be allowed to go over the 2% cap. We still aren't without a vote. And these districts that are now saying that they're going to have to cut busing to their students and staff members should have had the foresight back in the fall of what was coming to go out to a vote of their public, just like we are. I mean, it didn't happen overnight that they knew that their funding was being cut. They knew their funding was being cut, and they
Right.
knew they weren't going to be able to manage to have those things in their district.
Right.
They should have been going out to their communities as well for a vote. Districts can go over the 2% cap if they bring it to their voters for a vote.
Right, I know that, and these districts that spoke, and they knew it too. But the article addresses a lot of other things related to funding. So I think it's, as you're reading it now, too.
So if this bill passes, only S2 will benefit?
Yes.
Yes.
So I was
not helping us.
I was trying to read through it because it says
Yeah.
right now the language in the bill is unclear.
It's unclear and it hasn't been. yeah.
So I was going to start talking about this when I was.
The language of the
but
bill is very
basically-
clear, I read it. It
Right.
does specifically.
I'm just reading what's here in the article because I did
And,
not read
and
the
what they
bill.
suggested was they would only be able to go over cap of the amount of money that they were cut in their funding. The bill is very specific. I would urge you to read the bill.
Right. So one thing that I found interesting in here as I was reading this article is that there was testimony from 14 representatives from South Brunswick, as well as testimony from Toms River and Hillsborough. And I think, not to say that we have not been vocal, but I think what's really helped, which is sort of what we've spoken about doing in terms of creating a petition together, is that there are these multiple districts that have been affected by S2, and they've been loud. And I agree, they should have seen what was coming, and I thought that the fact that they got some of their funding restored this year was extremely unfair. Not that I want education removed from children, but what about our children? But I do wonder if we can work to advocate that this bill does not either is modified so that it doesn't specifically go to those districts, whether or not it's allowing for, because right now you can go above cap for certain things, right? We know that for health insurance costs and things of that nature without putting the vote. If there's other things that could be included in that, it would be interesting to see. So maybe this is something we can discuss at next month's committee meeting. But one thing I did see in here, though, that I found really interesting was the Murphy administration has been on track to fully fund the state share of the School Funding Reform Act for the first time 15 years after the law was enacted. And then it mentioned how the Department of Education is supposed to conduct an in-depth review of the formula every 3 years. But the formula has not been adequately reviewed, and it's 15 years of implementation. And that they're going to be doing a hearing very soon on S2. I think we should try to go to that hearing and speak about how we're not saying that these districts don't deserve their fair share, but we do as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The article takes up everything. I mean, the headline was that, like you had said, was like, oh boy, you know, it's 2% is coming up. But if you read the article, it states 10 or 15 other issues regarding school funding, which has to be fixed. But I just thought it was a good article and maybe a promising thing for the
I think
future.
they're talking about the school funding.
Right, at least they're
formula
talking
in
about
the
it
meeting.
amongst more senators within the, within the state, so.
Absolutely.
We've been talking about that for decades already.
We have.
But we haven't heard this, I don't
Yes.
think. We haven't heard so many people trying to get on board to help the districts, especially the Senator Gopal.
Right.
I hope I say his name right.
What I think helps is that
He's
his
a big
districts
yeah, well,
are
he's-
affected, more
right.
districts are
Yes.
being negatively affected. So then they're like, wait, there's a problem with
Yeah.
the funding for it. I'm like, well, yeah, we've known that.
Well, he's not from this area. He's not Middlesex. He's,
Right, or he's
uh,
Monmouth.
Maybe we should call
Monmouth
Linda
County.
Greenstein.
Yeah.
They should talk. Linda
That's
Greenstein.
what I was going to say. We need a legislator who is going to go and fight for our
Well, he's
school.
coming to Middlesex County's board
Well, he's not our legislator.
He's not, but still, he's pushing for
I think
across
we,
the district.
as a board, should attend that and speak to him about it.
Absolutely.
They said,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Michelle. What I said was, we should, as a board and a community, the way everybody likes to fight in here, we should all go there and fight Linda Greenstein to come with us there and listen to what this man's fighting for, and maybe she'll get the message this year, because I've been on this board several years, and I think maybe she doesn't hear out of this year.
Well, everybody's invited on the boards to come to the county meetings, and it's March 6th, so that's Old Bridge High School. You can go on the website and see what time.
Yeah. It's a hybrid, so
Well, you can
attend
go
online
hybrid
as well.
too, yes. I have to be there, but you can go hybrid.
Ms. Ratner?
Yep, just really quick. Ms. DePayne did a great job of explaining the Rossmore concert, but I enjoyed it as well. And I just wanted to thank Ms. Bizowski for putting that together. I know she's got a couple of other performances as well. I believe the high school percussion ensemble
Yes.
is going as well. So that's definitely appreciated. I actually received a letter, I believe it was last week, because of the legislative district redistricting that was done, I believe, last year. They had to redo the legislative committee, and I was reappointed for our district, District 14. So I will be attending the next meeting, which is March 9th. I will bring back what I get from that. And the other thing that I had wanted to mention is just that I really appreciate some of the correspondence from some of our teachers, administrators, when they're inviting us to some of these programs. It really helps remind me why we're doing what we're doing. So I know, like, Ms. Damone had sent us about the health fair. I had bumped into Ms. Bora at that last year, which was fantastic. I don't know if there are reasons why sometimes the board cannot all attend certain events. I know in the facility policy it says that board members are welcome to come to the building whenever there is an event going on. But in our weekly confidential, I know there are occasional events that either the two of you will mention, and there's that school section as well. But as much of those that can be shared as possible, I really do appreciate it, because whether it's athletics or arts or science, robotics, I really enjoy seeing what the students are doing. So the more of that, the better.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? All right, seeing none, the next item on our agenda is our public forum. Anybody wishing to address the board, you have 4 minutes. Please state your name and your municipality.
Vanessa Forrest, I live in Monroe. Excuse me. At first, I was dismayed, thinking that the residents, especially parents of Monroe, were apathetic to what is happening to our school system under Superintendent Chanley and certain members of the Board of Ed, led by Ms. Skirby. But I realized that the parents and residents don't know. There has always been an innate trust. Monroe schools have always been the best of the best. People are shocked when I tell them a lot of the things, the shenanigans that have gone on in this past year. Parents can't imagine a superintendent stealing from their children, robbing their children of
Excuse
basic
me, ma'am,
needs
we are
and
not going
services
to,
of the
no,
house.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
No, I'm sorry, we are
Excuse
not
me.
going to disparage with false claims of criminal.
Did she not get a raise? and we're getting donations.
You
We're
cannot
asking
be
for
making the
donations out.
claim, I'm sorry, you cannot be making the claim, she is stealing. I'm sorry.
That is stealing from
No,
our
it is
children.
not stealing
It
from
is.
our
She
children.
did not deserve a raise.
That,
And we know who voted for it. We know who voted for the raise that she received, right? And an extension on a contract that, for what, for doing her job? We've been paying for her doctorate for how many years? She finally got it, congratulations. How about all the money we put out for her to get that doctorate? 10 years? I don't even know how long. So don't tell me it's not stealing from our children.
It is
She
not
got a
stealing.
raise.
It is not
Okay,
stealing from
it
our
is.
children.
Money has to be reallocated to pay her salary, correct? Is that not true?
no.
So there was money, there was a slush fund already waiting to pay her raise?
No.
Is that what you're telling me? So
No.
then it was being reallocated from services for our children?
No.
Yes.
No, it is not how it works.
It didn't come out of thin air.
It is not how it works. No, you're
Yes,
incorrect.
it is how it
No,
works.
it is not.
The money is going to be.
It was not reallocated
So
out
where
of-
was it? So it was waiting. It was in a pot, just waiting for her to get her doctorate. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
So then where did the money come from?
There is money, there are different line items in a budget for salaries. It did not get
Correct.
reallocated from anything taken away from the children.
It was added. You voted on it. It was a new item, right?
Out of the
So-
salary budget. It was budgeted in the.
Okay.
There is
so
money
it was
in the.
still, okay. So it could have gone to maybe another teacher, hiring another substitute, to education. So that money is robbing education
No,
from
it is
our
not.
children.
You do not understand.
I do
how-
understand.
No, you
I'm
do
much
not.
smarter
I'm
than you
sorry.
think I am. Okay, so you can sit there, you can make faces, you can say, oh, do you have any more questions? You can do all those things to discourage people from coming up here and saying what is really happening. But it's not gonna work, because this is gonna be the end of it. Because I'm not gonna keep my mouth shut. And I have 9 grandchildren. At every single thing that I go to, I'm gonna talk about you and the things that have gone on at this Board of Ed for the last year. I have serious health issues right now. And my medication does not allow me to drive and things like that when I take it. So I put off taking my medicine so I could come here and face you and say these things. And you want to discourage me? That's okay. But I'm not going to stop. I'm going to speak the truth, and I'm going to tell the residents of Monroe, the parents, about the things that are going on. They've had a trust all these years that the school board had the best interests of the children, that they were not selfish people. But they're mistaken. Things have changed. And you specifically have changed the whole, direction of the school board. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Patricia Swalj, Madison Drive in Monroe resident. I'm glad, Dr. Chandler, that you brought up answering the public and also the transparency. I have to say that I've watched many school board meetings online, and I've attended a few. And what I notice is a pattern of what I believe to be discrimination against certain people who come to this podium. They do ask questions, but they don't have answers to those questions. Mrs. Skirby, you said you read the whole bill of Assemblyman Zeichner, and I forget what the other Assemblyman's name is. Awarding districts about the 2% and various things. It's my understanding that we had our November election for the school board moved to April, a move that doesn't see a lot of voter turnout. So it's a move that probably is going to have less of a voter turnout than the November election would be. And also, there was a reason about the budget. Now, this young lady that came up to talk about the budget and Dr. Cheney's extension on her contract and her raise, that's out into the future. That's a 5-year extension. So you haven't planned for that money yet. So you have to plan in future budgets for those salary increases, probably not just Mrs. Cheney's, but other increases. That has to be planned. And that may generate an increase in the school budget, which comes from the taxpayers of Monroe. Senior citizens are 51% of the voting public in this community. And we are 84%, what comes out of our tax dollars funds 84% of the school budget. So any taxpayer has the right to come up here and ask questions. This gentleman that came up initially in the beginning, he had several questions that you asked him to tell you right off the bat. He did that, and then you didn't answer any of them. Yes, we talk a lot about communication. We talk a lot about transparency. We talk a lot about budgets. I have to say I'm disgusted with what I've seen tonight, because it almost seems to me that there are members of the public who are targeted, and if they have questions, they just don't get answered. They get ignored. It's their right to come up here. There should be no discrimination of any member of the public when they ask a question. The question should be answered. Mrs. DePayne, you talked about communication. As a taxpayer, I would like to see better communication up here, not just the silence. Give me your questions all at once, and then you don't answer them? You've got to be kidding me. I think that's horrific. So that's my comments. The raises that you're giving, and Dr. Chansley's raise is going to equate at the end of this 5-year extension to over $1 million. Our school budget now is over $100 million. That's a huge school budget. So we as taxpayers have the right to question where that money is going. I see a lot of heads shaking. Am I wrong with the school, with what's coming for the school budget?
You're incorrect with the salary at the end of the 5 years. Yes, it is not $1 million. I don't know where you calculated that from. It's not $1 million raise.
There are
not come to $1 million.
Base salaries, stipends, and compensation, because you don't talk about the compensation, is going to equate, after a 5-year period, to over $1 million.
No, it is not.
Well, you need to do the math. You need to get your numbers, you need to get your numbers straight.
You do too. Thank you very much for your comments. Your time is up.
I hope my time is up, and I'm not just being sent back to my seat.
Brian Fabiano, Monroe. So I think what we just witnessed there and throughout this evening is Ms. Skirby, one of your campaign promises when you ran in 2020, you said transparency. Yeah, that's out the window. You haven't demonstrated one bit of transparency since you've been on this board, and as president, you've really crushed it. OPRAs are being denied left and right. You were a proponent for OPRAs to be fulfilled. Now they're not fulfilled by your crony, who's the superintendent of schools. You don't answer public's questions. You don't share information with your board members or the public when they come up and ask questions or transpire with you. See, that's the problem here. You sit here and you use your president's report as a campaign. We know you're running for re-election in 2 months, and we're going to defeat you, but we let you, run out your stunt. But you ran on transparency, you ran on fiscal responsibility, you ran on integrity in education, impact fees, fair state funding, and to end corruption. You failed on them all. You have zero record on anything you ran for, and quite honestly, you make the past boards, who I thought didn't do a good job, look like some of the best people that have ever represented our kids or any school board in this state. I mean, under your record, you talk about, you campaigned on ending corruption. We just had a superintendent, the first superintendent of schools in Monroe's history, found guilty of 2 ethics violations at the State Department of Education. No, 2 charges, that's two charges and 1 complaint. And after the superintendent was found guilty, she's still committing the same acts, because I reviewed the agenda over the last couple of months, and there is no action plan that she said, she told the state that there's an action plan, but she's still committing the same things, now just with her husband and not her son. So, I mean, it's a joke. When you ran for the board, Mrs. Scobie, you said you wanted to end corruption. We had to get rid of a business administrator that had an ethics violation. But yet, we've not heard once from this board or you as the board president how we're going to hold the superintendent of schools accountable, because in your words in the past, she's unethical. But we've heard zero from you on how it's going to be addressed. Under you, as the president, Ms. Scobie, and on this board, since you've been there, you want to end corruption. Not only has the superintendent had 2 ethics violations, you have 2 court cases going forward to the Office of Administrative Law for your own ethics violations. One in March that's coming up, and another one in April, May. Behind that, there's 3 other cases in abeyance that are going to continue after those cases go forward. So you talk that you want to have transparency and end corruption. It's a joke. I mean, it's a joke. And the member of the public is right. You voted. You don't even realize the contract that you put out for the superintendent's extension, the value of the contract that you put before a vote. It is over $1 million. Actually, I think it's $1.4 million when you factor in all the perks, the benefits, everything that comes with it. It's not just a pure salary, okay? But the funny part is, just a couple weeks ago, you put out a message to the school district, to the teachers and the principals and all the administrative staff. We have a hiring freeze. What does that mean? We don't have any money. So who isn't doing their job? Is the superintendent not doing her job? Is this board president who said fiscal responsibility matters? Is she not doing her job if we have to put a spending freeze? Is the BA not doing their job? But here's what I don't understand. We put a spending freeze just conveniently a few months after we pass a record superintendent contract. Yeah, she can laugh all day. I mean, you got a good deal for being an unethical superintendent. I mean, I'd take your job any day, believe me. I mean, over $200,000 a year. But the fact remains, you are a hypocrite. And we will be there every step of the way during this campaign process while you're running in this community trying to tell your lies with your candidates. We know Matt Gorham's running with you. We know another gentleman's running with you. We will call your record out and we will hold you accountable because you're unethical, your cronies unethical, and it's time to be honest.
These last 3 years, sitting here on the board, we have done incredible things for our school district. We have saved a lot of money. We have done a lot of wonderful things for our school district to move our schools forward. The personal attacks on myself and the superintendent is nothing more than a political witch hunt. And it's very unfortunate that people come here and want to, month after month, disparage our teachers, disparage our administration, disparage our schools, when you don't care one iota of what is actually going on with our students. We are here to serve our students and our staff, and we do a very good job on this board of making policies and approving recommendations that are made to help our children. This is about educating our children. Mr. Gagliardi, excuse me, you are out of order, and if you cannot close your mouth, you are going to be asked to leave. You are out of order. Mr. Selby, can we please make sure that we have order in our gallery?
Before Mr. Gagliardi speaks, I want to mention the freeze.
What? Mr. Gagliardi? Can you please?
So there was an expectation, of course, that this was going to come up this evening, so I was authorized to describe the nature of the case against superintendent. I'm going to describe it very briefly, and then I'm just going to read the conclusion for the members of the community. So there were 2 charges brought among the many ethics cases we seem to always have swirling about here in Monroe Township, this one involving the superintendent. There were allegations with regard to her husband and her son. The husband, I got it. The allegations as it relates to the superintendent's husband were dismissed, and the remainder were decided on summary decision, that is to say, on the papers. There was not a hearing. The School Ethics Commission concluded that because the list of 160, I believe, folks who were eligible to serve as substitutes, the list on the agenda under the superintendent recommendations included her son. The Ethics Commission identified the fact that when findings are made of inappropriate behavior, that appropriate penalties can range from reprimand to removal. And then the commission said as follows. In its review, the commission finds that reprimand is the most appropriate penalty. In reaching this determination, the commission finds that, based on the record, respondent did not act deliberately or intentionally and did not realize her son's name was on the list of substitute teachers. The commission genuinely appreciates respondent's admission that she should have scrutinized the list more carefully and that she accepted full responsibility for that oversight. However, the commission notes that it is respondent's responsibility as chief school administrator to examine the agenda items prior to board meetings and that she should abstain in all matters in which she has a conflict of interest in order to preserve the public trust. Close quote.
Thank you, Mr. Gagliardi.
Thank you, Madam President.
That's right, you didn't do nothing wrong. Can I say
No,
something?
we're in the middle of public forum.
Sorry.
Peter Piro, Monroe Township. I just have some comments. Like, I asked a couple basic questions from the agenda tonight. I don't understand why I couldn't get a simple answer, but I really know why. It's personal. I find it appalling of all the transparency and everything you claim you do, Ms. Skirby, when in turn what you did was you spent $100,000 of taxpayer money for Mike Gorski to sit home and then resign. No criminal charges, nothing, nothing. He had a reprimand for whatever he did. But we paid him $102,000 to sit home. We moved the election from November to April to extend your term. Exactly. That's the reason. You didn't know the budget's going to be over 2%. It was asked at the last meeting. The budget's not even done. But of course, I'm sure now it will be over 2%. I'm sure of that. So I just think that you sit there and you claim you're transparent. You ran Mr. Dowling out of here with a sick wife at 11 months before retirement. And you made that guy, you did not rehire him. So what does he do? He goes to a smaller district because he's a phenomenal athletic director, and they paid him more money. What you've done to people is disgusting, it's personal, it's horrible, and I can't believe you could sit there and say that you don't do these things. Thank you.
In case I'm mistaken, this is a 10-member board that takes recommendations from the administration. No, I did not do those things that you accuse me of, continuously, falsely accuse. And if you would like to know, Mr. Gorski
My time's not
resigned.
up. Let's bring
He
up,
was-
yeah,
No,
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Gorski
you sat down,
resigned
your time is
after,
over.
no, I still have 2 minutes. Mr. Gorski resigned after you paid him to sit home. You paid our taxpayer money, over $100,000 for nothing. He was brought up on no criminal charges, none. You did some witch hunt investigation that came up with nothing.
Oh, we came up
Minor
with-
things.
No, it was not
No, because if
minor.
you came up with something, he would have been charged criminally. There was nothing
That
criminal.
is not true.
That's 100%
No,
true.
it is absolutely incorrect.
I
Mr.
did internal
Gagliardi, would you
affairs,
like
I
to-
did public relations, I
Excuse
did
me.
criminal investigations. I know how it works.
Mr. Gagliardi, would you like to address
So I'm sure though after the meeting, too, Mr.
findings that we
Stefano
had?
posts really nice things about me on Facebook, because after every meeting, he goes up there and posts things about me, so
And I'm gonna do it
that's
tonight,
fine too.
I'm gonna do it tonight, too. Tonight I'm gonna do it, too, so keep your Facebook open.
Hear that, Mr. Vito? Oh, I'm blocked from everything, Mr. Stefano, so you post about me, but I can't see it. I think Mr. Gagliardi knows that board members shouldn't be running Facebook pages bashing people. I would think that. Am I correct?
Freedom of speech.
Not when you're a public
Mr.
official.
Gagliardi.
What do you want me to address, Madam President?
The findings that we had after the investigation of the business office.
Well, most of that, I suspect, is related to personnel matters that we couldn't discuss publicly. But I do recall discussing publicly the expenditure of money without board approval. And that was discussed at the time. It was investigated by the board. Obviously, there's more to say, but I don't think it's appropriate for a public discussion.
Okay, thank you.
But there's nothing criminal, correct?
Whether there was or was not is not for me to say, but I don't believe.
Well, if there is, it would have to be brought to the prosecutor's office. That's state law.
Hang on one second. I don't believe there was ever any discussion about criminal charges. I don't recall that ever being the subject of discussion at this board.
But we're going to pay money for somebody to sit home and collect a paycheck for 6 months. Just like now, the taxpayer's going to pay $100,000 for an April election. Like Ms. Frost said, we're wasting taxpayer money. This money should be spent on children, not on these ridiculous things.
George Gunkelman, 5 Kelly Court, Monroe. I'd like to know, I see the next meeting is March 5th. It's only a couple weeks away. Is there some reason why we've gone away from Wednesdays to a Tuesday and moved up from the third Wednesday or to the second Tuesday? What's driving that?
The budget.
And we didn't know that was coming?
We did. There are certain dates that when we get the state aid amounts, when Ms. Allen has to then present it to get a preliminary approval, and then to get that back to the state, there's a very short turnaround time.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I wanted to say, I think I said it in the last meeting, but I'm going to say it again because it seems to be still an issue. I don't think there's any reason for the school district to be afraid of voters. We are not dangerous people, even when we go to the polls. For whatever reasons, one of the few times that members of the public go into some of our schools is when they went there to vote. And it was always a positive thing in the past, that people saw how the schools were running and all this, and now somehow there's this fear of voters as being a dangerous person. And we got to keep them out to have safety. I think we can have safety in Monroe without taking the polling booths out of our schools. It's not a big deal. It's not dangerous. We haven't had problems in the past. So I think the paranoia is at the cost of having the community have some exposure to our schools that otherwise many of them do not get. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to just address that, if I may. The community is always welcome into our schools at various events. However, I know the discussion on this board has been for a very long time, previous boards as well. Having people walk into our school buildings freely on Election Day is not safe. I'm sorry, we live in a world where we don't know who is walking into our buildings, we don't know what they are carrying, we have to hire extra security that day. I know Dr. Chanley has had conversations with the police department, we've had police presence. There is a cost to hiring police officers for that day. It is not safe to have the polls open and have our school children in, especially on November elections. It brings out, the November elections bring out a large amount of voters, and if there are other buildings that could be utilized in our town for voting, that is when it should be. On any given day, you are not allowed in any school unless you buzz in, you have identification, and you have a purpose for being there. On election day, we have 2 of our elementary schools that are wide open to anybody from the public to come in. I'm sorry, the safety of our students and our staff come well beyond anybody wanting to walk in and see our schools on that day. If you'd like a tour of our schools, I'm sure the administration could set that up. We have events that are run in our schools, but allowing anybody to walk in on election day into our elementary schools with the youngest, most vulnerable students in our district, to me, is a reason for concern for safety, and to eliminate that, the polls should be taken out of our schools. It has nothing to do with trying to keep out community members from seeing our schools. It is about sheer safety of our students and our staff. And I would hate for us to, God forbid, wait for a tragedy to then say we should have done that.
Does the increased cost of that protection, is that more than the cost of holding a special election?
I'm not sure, sir. Is there anybody else wanting to speak? Seeing none, we will close the public forum. The next scheduled Board of Education meeting will be on March 5th, 2024. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you.